I am deeply, painfully aware of all of the suffering going on this planet, and I wish for this suffering to stop because I feel empathy for the victims of this suffering. I wish for them not to suffer, just as I wish for myself not to suffer, because any conscious entity desires to be happy, because to desire anything is to believe that it is good, and happiness is the experience of that good. And suffering is is when you are in too much pain to be happy. Things are too far removed from the way that you want them to be, and they are not moving toward the way you want them to be quickly enough. And so you feel suffering, the heavy weight of suffering, which in its which is intrinsically unenjoyable and undesirable. And so you want to never suffer at all, if at all possible. You want to minimize your suffering as much as possible, if not complete, if you believe it impossible to completely eliminate your own suffering by definition. And so logically, if every single human being on earth felt my same level of empathy for the rest of the world that I do, then everybody else would also want each other not to suffer, would wish for each other to avoid suffering, be free from suffering as much as possible. Then, if every single person on earth also understood all the most accurate, objective truths about it, which I understand, then these people would also understand just as well as I do everything that needs to be done, at least as well as I do, everything that needs to be done in order to stop the world's suffering, in order to make sure that everybody does not suffer. But all of this suffering exists in the first place because people lack empathy and understanding. They are selfish and ignorant. They care too much about their own personal happiness and are too willing to disregard others' happiness in the pursuit of their own. They do not have enough empathy for others, and they do not understand certain bits of information that other people understand, which, in particular, the understandings of the suffering going on in the world and of what needs to be done in order to stop it. People lack this empathy and understanding, and therefore cause and allow each other to suffer, either intentionally or unintentionally. And what is the root cause of both our ignorance and our selfishness? Most fundamentally, it is the simple fact that each of us is a separate mind, experiencing this world only through our own physical bodies. We only have the direct experience of our own emotions and only understand our own thoughts more clearly than anybody else's. We only understand our own knowledge and beliefs about objective reality. We understand our own beliefs more clearly than anybody else's. And this is what makes it possible for us to care too much about promoting our own happiness over others, and to be too surely convinced of our own understanding of reality, even though somebody else might sometimes understand better. We are capable of communicating to each other through language, learning each other's thoughts and accurately understanding them, learning each other's understandings about objective reality. But again, the clarity of this communication is limited due to the simple fact that each of us is ultimately only isolated to our own separate minds, in which we think only our own thoughts and ultimately only our own thoughts about everybody else's claims about objective reality. And yes, we have a great deal of natural empathy for each other. But when a person experiences too much pain in one's own life, then this person can only focus on one's own pain and therefore can not think as clearly about other aspects of objective reality And at the same time, they feel such great pain that they are willing to get any quick relief that they can from this pain. And so if these people think that are led to believe for whatever reason that it is necessary or that it is necessary to cause physical or emotional pain to another person as a means of ridding their own pain, either as a means to some other end or as an intrinsic sadism, then that is what will cause these people to cause and allow pain for other conscious entities, which is the origin of selfishness. And this process of selfishness developing in the individual, again, is only possible because that person is isolated to that person's own experience of their own lives through their own bodies. They only directly experience their own pain, and so they prioritize the elimination of their own pain above anyone else's. We might say that every person is to a degree selfish, due to the simple fact that each of us only experiences our own separate minds and therefore has to somewhat prioritize our own happiness over everybody else's. But when we prioritize this too much, that is when we are selfish in the noticeable, excessive sense. We only experience the degree to which our own minds, our own cups are full of happiness. And so if we are in desperate need of greater happiness and believe that we can attain it through diminishing anybody else's happiness, we become willing to. That is the origin of our selfishness. And we only become willing to diminish others' happiness also due to the fact that we are all separate minds. We do not directly experience that person's diminishing of their happiness. And so there exists the possibility of disregarding that person's happiness entirely. It is in this way that our egoic separation, the simple fact that we are all separate minds, is the origin of all of our ignorance and selfishness, which leads to all of the problems that we cause and allow to continue to exist for each other. So if the boundaries of our egoic separation, of our separate minds, if these boundaries could be overcome in such a way that we were all made to fully empathize with each other and fully understand all of our beliefs, all of our clearest understandings about objective reality, then we would all desire for each other to be happy just as much as we each wish for our own selves to be happy. And we would do all the things that any one of us most clearly understands needs to be done in order to objectively ensure that all of our needs in this world for happiness, all of our requirements for basic happiness are met. So hypothetically, if a telepathic connection could be formed among all humanity that would diffuse all of our empathy and understanding to each other in this way, then our ignorance and selfishness would be effectively eliminated, and we would all be able to live in peace in a truly fair society where everybody's happiness is truly respected, and everybody truly has all the resources, abilities, and opportunities to truly live as happily as possible. A world in which everybody would truly do everything that makes them happiest without diminishing anybody else's happiness. A telepathic connection that would achieve this might be termed mental unity. And you have your own issues that you most strongly care about in the world, that you wish for to be solved, right? And you have your own understanding of how these problems might indeed be solved, right? So if such a mental unity were created successfully, it would include all of your understandings of what needs to be done in the world being objectively assessed by every single other person in the world and being understood for their true logical merit. Plus, every single person on Earth would be made to fully empathize with each other, including including yourself and everybody you most strongly have empathy for already. And so if you truly have an accurate understanding of what needs to be done for the world, these solutions of yours will be implemented by everybody who needs to implement them. It would be nothing less than all of your dreams for the world finally coming true. So if such a telepathic connection, this mental unity, were in fact scientifically possible and practical to actually create, if there existed some technology that could form this telepathic bond among humans, you would want this mental unity to be created, right? If there existed scientific proof that such a technology could, in fact, be developed, you would want to know what this proof is and how it demonstrates what simple further steps need to be taken in further scientific research to actually get this mental unity achieved, right? And then you would want as many people as possible who actually are capable of creating this technology to do so, right? So if you truly want the world's suffering to stop in all the ways that you envision, please believe me when I say this. There is scientific proof for how mental unity can be created. I will provide this proof shortly. I will explain how it would in fact be most practical to go about creating this mental unity and immersing the entire human species in it. If there was a practical and possible way of actually going about creating this mental unity for all humanity, this is what it would look like. The people of the world who are too selfish and ignorant, who are most directly causing the world's problems, these are the people least likely to desire this mental unity because they don't want to get rid of their own ignorance and selfishness. And so it would make sense instead to simply form this unity first among all of us who are empathetic and understanding enough to understand the goodness of this mental unity and desire it for it to be created for all mankind, for all humanity, so that all the suffering in the world can finally stop. We would form this unity among ourselves. So let's say it's only a few thousand of us that first agree to form this unity. A few thousand of us with all of our understandings of the world. This would still be a lot of information to comprehend, right? It might even be too much for our brains to ever physically process. However, practically speaking, we wouldn't need to understand everything that every single person knows about objective reality, because you know a lot of things, don't you? You have all the entire years of your life from which you can recall memories of things that objectively happened. But it's only a few important things that you wish the entire world would understand, right? And so each of us in the unity could only focus on these most important understandings that we want every single person in the world to understand. And so that would be a lot less information for us to process. And we could form, say, smaller unities in groups of us first before forming a unity among the many thousand of us. Let's say this unity was formed in groups of 6 of us at a time. Each of the 6 of us in each group, each eventually being ensured to fully empathize with each other and to fully understand all the most important points in each other's worldviews about what the most pressing problems in the world are and what needs to be done about them. Then each of these groups of 6 could form a pair with another group of 6, forming a new consensus on the world and what needs to be done in it, each pair forming a new consensus. And then these merged groups of 12, all of them could also form pairs with each other, and then gradually keep forming pairs until eventually all the thousands of us who first consent to the unity, until all of us desire for this unity, till all of us reach the same consensus. We all understand the most important things that need to be done. Because really, it's only a few systems that need to be put in place and a few things that need to be common to everybody's understanding in order to make the world as happy and fair of a place as possible. We just all need to understand these things and to fully empathize with each other so that we actually stick to these agreements of what needs to be done. And the telepathic connection would take care of making sure that we all have empathy for each other as well. And so at that point, we would understand what to do with the rest of the world who is too selfish and ignorant to understand and desire the mental unity. And the formation of this mental unity among ourselves would involve primarily the use of psychedelics the and the technological synchronization of our brainwave and heart frequencies, as well as synchronization of the Earth's magnetic field frequency. We could build towers that reinforce the Earth's magnetic field frequency of 7 hertz, and we could make sure that each of our brains, particularly the right occipital lobes, vibrate to a frequency of 7 hertz. And we could magnetically stimulate all of our hearts to beat at the highest vibration as well to ensure that we all have empathy for each other. Because our emotion and our empathy for others is strongly correlated with the physical heart in our bodies. And it's when our hearts are beating in a more harmonious frequency that we feel happier and feel more empathy or love for others. And the brainwave synchronization would be to ensure that our brains are able to transmit information to each other just as each brain moves information around within itself. And the psychedelics would also put our brains in a similar enough frequency to be able to telepathically connect with each other. And then once there are enough of us on these psychedelics and with these wearing these helmets that synchronize our brain waves, and enough of us standing around these towers that stabilize the Earth's magnetic field, perhaps spreading the unity to the rest of humanity would be as simple as simply building more of these towers to then send out our signal of our brainwave, of the understandings formed through our mental unity consensus. Because all of our own electromagnetic harmony with each other would already be strong enough to spread to others with the magnetic field frequency, Earth's magnetic field frequency stabilizing towers alone, without having to put other people having to take psychedelics or wear brainwave helmets. And so they would be automatically entered into our mental unity, and they would be made to empathize with us, have our same level of empathy for the entire world, and to understand all the same things that we understand needs to be done in order to stop the world's suffering. And if any of them who previously refused to enter the unity, if any of them have any accurate, honest understandings about what needs to be done as well, once their empathy and understanding is also awakened within them, then we will also understand these ideas of theirs. Nobody will be excluded in the unity. Everybody's ideas will be given fair consideration. There won't be any groupthink or mind control. People will not be forced to believe or act upon things that they truly do not understand for themselves to be true. And no idea will be excluded. Nobody will be pressured from No idea will be criminalized. Nobody will be pressured not to speak against the already formed consensus if they honestly understand a greater perspective of objective reality. And then this telepathic connection wouldn't even have to remain 24/7. We wouldn't have to remain in it 24/7. Our empathy and understanding will have been awakened within each other enough so that we can all simply continue on agreeing to live harmoniously with each other without having to be telepathically connected to each other at all times. And so if you wish to be part of this initial unity, please contact me. If you have any questions or concerns about this mental unity, please also contact me and let us reach an honest understanding. And if you find any other scientific leads for how this mental unity can be created, any other scientific pieces of technology any other scientific findings that lend clues for what further technology needs to be researched and developed in order to perfect this system of mental unity among us, please also contact me with these scientific leads. And if you have any means of directly conducting the further research that needs to be done to get this mental unity created, please also contact me and let me know how, so that we can get this unity created. And if you wish to be in this unity and you contact me and stay in contact with me, I will notify you of the plans that get undertaken to actually the finalized plans that actually get undertaken to form this mental unity. If you have any of the means to directly conduct this further research on mental unity, I can help you in any way that I can. I might be able to help, for example, by volunteering for experimentation or by contacting and persuading anybody else you might know who would need to collaborate with you on this research, persuading them to collaborate with you. And all the further research that needs to be done will be explained in the scientific proof that I will provide. Last but not least, everybody who is convinced about this mental unity that it needs to be created, please also share this message with as many other intelligent, empathetic, and understanding people as you can, so that it eventually spreads to enough people who are capable of directly conducting this further research on it and actually getting it created. And if you are in any position of worldly power to grant authorization for this research to anybody you can grant this authorization to, please also do so. So now I will also explain the proof of what needs to be done, of why these things need to be done. Thank you.